Good afternoon and welcome to Student Hub Live. My name's Karen Foley and I am going to be presenting our afternoon show today as part of our Freshers Activity Week. We are going to be talking about finding your way around. So I've got lots of guests who are going to give you some tips and insight and the opportunity to ask any questions that you have about studying with the Open University. Now, I'm hoping that some of you came along this morning where we introduced you to some of our staff and also some students at the Open University and where you got to talk to each other. So it's a live and interactive show for those of you who haven't been before. You can watch the video on catch up after the event and you use this time, it's completely voluntary, to do whatever you want. HJ suggested people might like to watch and do the ironing this morning. I'm not sure how well that went down, but I'm sure there are plenty of other activities, including eating your lunch, that you can do while watching the show. But it's a great chance to be able to talk to other students. There's lots of people in the chat today, so you can make new acquaintances, but please don't share personal information in the chat. If you'd like to connect, there are plenty of spaces such as Facebook groups, etc., where you can join and connect with other students. But putting your stuff on here is rather like putting a post-it note up on a newsagent window, and you never quite know who might come to your door or give you a phone call in the middle of the night. So please don't share any personal information right here. So we've got HJ who is on our chat hot desk even today, joined by colleagues from our chat desk. But first, let's go to you, HJ, and see how everybody is doing. And maybe you can explain a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
Certainly, we're all doing really well, and it's great to see loads of people coming back from this morning. So I'm sure you've got a good taste of it and know how it all works. But if you're joining us for the first time in this session, welcome. It's really great to see you. And this chat is a space for you to do whatever you want with. You can chat to other people, let them know what you're studying, how you're feeling, share your top tips that you've learned, or maybe ask some questions about some things you might want to know. We've got lots of experienced people in the chat to help us as well. We've got Nicole, Heather, Natasha, and Matt from the student support team, who's also going to be studying as well. And you find that as well. Lots of people who work with the OU are also studying, so they know exactly how it feels. So it's a space for you to put your thoughts, comments, and questions to our fantastic guests. Just have a good chat, or you could even just sit back and watch. It's completely up to you how we use this session. The chat does go by very quickly when we're busy. So what you might want to do is hit the pin button on the top right of your screen. That just lets you scroll through at your own pace rather than it just flying by. And sometimes we do miss stuff when it's really busy. So if we have missed anything, just let us know by emailing studenthub@open.ac.uk and we'd love to get back to you. But we're all geared up for a fantastic session. I know people have been introducing themselves. So I know Jessica's doing psychology and counselling. She's a full-time mum with a young baby and she works 30 hours a week. So I know it'd be a good learning experience. I know when I started, it took me a while to get my time management under control, but we'll have lots of great tips throughout these sessions that we're running over the next week. Pascal's hailing from Frankfurt, Mika's from the West Midlands, and Beverly's studying environmental science, which all sounds fantastic. We'd love you to let us know what you're studying, where you're from, and how you're feeling using the widgets to the left of your screen or letting us know in the chat box. But just remember, anything goes in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
Brilliant. Now, HJ, you had a very, very busy morning, and I'm pleased that we have so many colleagues from our student support team this afternoon because hopefully they can alleviate things and you can have a bit more time chatting. There's so many familiar names here, so it's great to see some sense of community built up. And guys at home, if you have questions that you can ask Matt and Natasha and Heather and Nicole about, then please do, because our student support team pretty much know everything. So I'm sure that they'll fill you in on all the details. I bet you've got heaps of questions, so do make the most of this time. HJ, have you had your lunch though, most importantly, in our break between sessions?
I had some sneaky toast because I didn't actually have breakfast. So I know that the sports department likes to talk to us a lot about healthy eating and how that helps us concentrate. So I don't think they'll be too happy with me in what my lunch habits have been today. But everyone else can let us know what they've been having for lunch. Maybe they've had something a little more interesting than just some toast for lunch.
Maybe they have, HJ,
Maybe.
and we can have a little chat about this again later. Brilliant. Okay, so yes, toast for lunch is very studenty, I think, HJ. We need to, ramp up with some vegetables, etc. Oh, Kate's on holiday on the Isle of Wight, but is tuning into Student Hub Live, so that is a proper dedication. And let's, before we kick off and I introduce you to our guest, take a look at what it is you're studying. We've asked you to fill in our word cloud. For those of you who are new, these word clouds, they're a bit odd, but they need 3 things, otherwise the results won't submit. So often, like, what are you studying might just have one word, or it might be a few things that you're studying. So if there's only one thing you'd like to input to that word cloud, put a dot or a full stop in that box. And then when you've done that, you can see what everyone else at home has added as well. So it's quite exciting. But let's see where we've got so far in terms of what it is that you guys are studying. So here you can see we've got a huge mix of things, all lots of psychology, social sciences, DD 100, so psychology. Some of you know your module codes. Those of you who are new to the OU will perhaps start getting very familiar with these. Some history students here, education, etc. So there's lots and lots of things. What a wonderful graph. Now, those of you who are doing the arts and social sciences, we have a special event from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. That's actually next Monday, where we've got members of the module team. So if you're studying any of those first level things like A111 or the psychology modules or even DD 102, do come along to that event. It'll be super. Right, we've got also lots of other events you can look at on the Student Hub Live website as well. We've also got 30 people watching from Europe, 3 from Asia, 2 from Africa, 1 from the Middle East and North America, and 1 from South America, and those are growing all the time. So fill in our map widget as well and let us know where you are. It's nice to see our whole globe gathering together. So I have some guests for you today. This session is all about finding your way around. Now, for those of you who came along this morning, we talked a little bit about how being an OU student was, for many of us, if you are a new student, completely new. And so why should you know so many of the things that, we often think we should know? So this is one of many opportunities to get to know your way around the university. And I often think, the first time you do anything, sometimes you remember certain things, sometimes you might forget. It's just important to get a sense of where you might be able to go. And it may be that you ask the same questions over and over again or forget things. So no pressure to write stuff down. Here is a chance just to get a sense of some of the people behind the scenes who are here to support you in your learning. So I'm joined by Fiona from the library, and I've got Tammy, who's going to talk to us about the virtual learning environment. She's in our learning design service team. Leanne White is here. Leanne's a student, and she is from the Open University Students Association. And I have Mark, who's from our IT department, who's going to give us some great hacks. They always go down really, really well. And it's very important when you're learning online to feel secure online as well. So we're going to be talking to these wonderful people here about some of the services. And as I said before, we've got lots of colleagues from our student support team. We'll be covering some of those off in the chat today. So finding your way around, let's have a little round robin then in terms of one thing for each of you who are all in different offices across the OU. What is important to finding your way around? Sarah, let's start with you. What do you think is most important? Oh, sorry, Leanne. I knew I would do this. Do you know, I've written a wrong name down on my piece of paper, and I was saying I'm so bad with names and I'm very, very literal. So do forgive me, Leanne. Sorry. I was saying before, where's Sarah?
Finding your way around. I think for me, it was just clicking on everything and just seeing where it took me and where does this lead and where does this lead. And I think really that's for a lot of students that is the best way to find your way around and find what's happening.
So you didn't sort of feel any massive pressure about where to start. You just had a little look and tried to navigate things in a way that felt right for you.
Well, I'm a very I'll say inquisitive, not nosy, because it's a nicer word. I'm a very inquisitive person, so for me, it was just all about what's happening here and how do I find out about this. And but I understand for other students, it can be scary trying to do that. But for me, it was all about just exploring, really.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's the main thing, and that's very important. Tammy, what would you say? Would you say exploring is important?
Yeah, especially when you land on your module website to explore your way around, go through the study planner, work through what's in there week by week. There's tabs at the top. So you've got your assessment tab where all your assessment dates are. Go have a look at that. Take some notes on when your assessments are coming up. Then another good place to go to on the VLE is there's a tab called forums. If you go into there, what you'll normally find is your tutors, your ALs have put in a welcome forum there, so you can go and introduce yourself to the rest of the people on your tutor group. Really great place to start, and then just click around. So in theory, I'm talking about the module website, but go and have a look around. You're not going to break anything. And if you need to go back, you just click on, say, for example, if you're studying A111, A1111, just click on the home button, go back to the planner. You're not going to break anything. It's really simple, but yeah, go have a look at your assessment dates. Go say hello to people in the forums, and go book yourself on your first tutorial.
Brilliant.
And yeah.
All very important, and we're going to show you in a little while some of those key spaces. So Tammy will talk us through those key tabs, but you can't get lost if you go and have a look around. But those are the most sort of important things to think about, and we'll go through those in a little bit more detail, won't we, Tammy?
Yep.
Perfect. Excellent. So Mark, what do you think the most important thing is then about finding your way around from, I guess, an IT perspective?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, taking things at your own pace. Never panic when it comes to things, anything related to IT, cyber security, information security. It seems very daunting and overwhelming, but don't be daunted. Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, we've got some fantastic support pages that we have available to you. So I'd say one of the first things you can do is go to our safe and secure computing pages, and we have that across our help guides on the intranet for you. So if you log on there, and you can save that as a favorite link so you can refer back to it whenever you need it. So it's always a little resource there to look back on. It gives you all the sort of the essential hints and tips you need to know what to do, regardless of the situation you face, whether it be directly IT related or whether it be something like a cybersecurity concern, or worry about an email you might have received, whether or not it's legitimate, and to just not panic. Really, navigate to that, and then it'll put your mind at ease. I'll tell you that. I mean, I did that, from a staff perspective as well when I first started. It's just taking your time, taking everything in, and getting used to your new surroundings.
Brilliant. Excellent. So repetitive advice here about not panicking, not breaking things, and just having an explore around. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail again, Mark, about how we might do that. Fiona, last but by no means least, what would you say is really important for students in terms of finding your way around?
Well, if you want to find your way around the library, we've got a library website, got an image of it here somewhere. And it's got a great big blue search box on the home page, and you can't miss it. And as Tammy says, you can't break it. So why not try typing something in that interests you? I suggest something like owl or dinosaur. Just see what you get. We have lots of stuff in the library. There's music, ebooks, journals, newspapers, British standards, maps. It's an amazing variety of things, all in order to help you when you're writing your assignments. We do, in fact, have a real library in Milton Keynes. People sometimes ask us about that, and this is the entrance to the library in Milton Keynes. Sadly, it's closed to the public at the moment, but in happier times, it is open to anybody who wants to come in and have a look at it. And it's a lovely building, and people are very welcome once the pandemic's over and better times are here.
Brilliant. And people are talking about how lovely my wall is. Well, I just think your books are so neatly filed. What system have you used there?
By size, actually.
That's very unlibrarian-like and very disappointing. Well, I think if we should go to the library and Google healthy alternatives than toast for lunch, because Victoria says HJ's had sneaky toast. What about cake? HJ is well known for eating his cake. And Laura's had toast for lunch too, HJ. So you're not alone, but she is the only one who's mentioned it so far, I'll be honest. Okay. So let's take a look around. Now, Tammy, let's start with the VLE, which is our virtual learning environment. One of the things we spoke a little bit about this morning was all these various acronyms, and VLE, virtual learning environment, is one of them, but it is perhaps the most important. And I'm going to invite Leanne to sort of talk about this, because Leanne's sort of had an approach of looking her way around, so she might have some advice as well. But Tammy is, I guess, our sort of technical guru in terms of design, and is sort of going to show us a little bit around. And also she's going to give us some hints and tips that you may not be able to read about, because of course there are other ways you can find out this information, but I always think it's really nice to see and have someone talk through and tell me the bits that may not be published in the various Box and other induction sites. So Tammy, what's the most important thing about the VLE, and tell us what you're going to show us.
Okay, so let's see if I can get a screenshot on the screen, because so you can see what I'm talking about in terms of the study planner. So this is a landing page. This is your module landing page. Yes, this is E111 or E111, depending on how you want to call that acronym, which is great to see. I think from what Karen was saying, there's loads of A111 students around. So purely by chance had I selected this website. But if this isn't your website, don't worry. I think what you should be able to tell is that they're very similar. If you're doing DD100 or you're doing A111 or S111, the structure of your module website is very, very similar. So when you're looking at the study planner, so here's another one that's annotated, so this should help a bit more. There are things on the study planner to help you find your way around. So if we're talking finding your way around, you've got all your weeks in your planner. So the module team, when they're writing their modules, they think about breaking it down into little chunks for you. It's a bit like Mark was saying, don't get overwhelmed with everything that's there. Take it week by week, break it down, have a look at it. There are things on there. We've got tick boxes to help you track your progress so that you know where you are. I'd be interested from Leanne to know whether you've used those on the VLE. You've also got your tutor contact details. You've got quick links to your tutorials when you've booked them, quick links to all your assessment dates. And then there's some little tricks at the bottom. You can export your key dates to your Outlook calendar if you've got one, Google Calendar. You can print them out. And yeah, there's a lot on that page just to help you get started.
Brilliant. So that's a really great talk through about some of those key things. So Leanne, tell us, did you use some of those various aspects, and did you like that tick box and sort of progress bar?
I did. I absolutely love the VLE. I love the way it's designed. I think it is brilliant the way it lays out week by week exactly what needs to be what you should be working on that week. I love the progress bar. I actually find the progress bar very motivating. Yeah, I get quite excited when I can tick something off and I can see the percentage going up. And I think with the bars across the top for where your tutorials are and resources and the forums, I think it's laid out in such a way that it's not that difficult to navigate your way around. And as I say, I'm a big fan of the VLE. So
Absolutely. It is the most important place. And I mean, OU modules, they vary so much. Some of them you'll get a stack of books. Some of them you won't get any books. It'll be all online. There's a real sort of difference in terms of how different modules are taught. But the one thing in particular, I know there are lots of DD102 students, when you get those books and you think, oh gosh, there's lots to be reading, it's really important that you look at that module website, because that says, and now go and read this chapter or that chapter. And it makes sense of all of the material. So just reading books, if you have a nice stack of books, is only part of the equation. It's really important that you read that so that you know what to focus on, how much to do, and perhaps there are other activities or things there, in addition to many other spaces to connect with other people. So Tammy, have you got more to tell us?
Okay, so I'm just thinking, so some modules will only have books and the VLE website to guide you through it. Other modules are all online. So all the teaching takes place on the module website. You click through into your learning and teaching material, and the teaching is done in web pages, and you've got videos, you've got quizzes, you've got activities that you need to do. And I know when you think of it all being online and you're thinking, oh, what am I going to do if I'm not online all the time, or I need to take this away, or I want to look at it in a different environment other than just on my laptop. Well, you can also download all of that content. There's various ways of downloading the content. So you can take it in a PDF format. You can take it in we export the content to Mobi, which is for Kindle. EPUB, which is for standard ebook readers, and Word documents as well, if that helps you. So once you've downloaded them, you can use them offline, you can annotate them, you can print them out. So if you're thinking, wow, I have to be online all the time and I have to sit in front of my computer screen all the time, if you don't have books, there are a range of different alternatives there for you to pick up and use.
Brilliant, excellent. So the virtual learning environment, or VLE, sort of houses these aspects, but you don't, as Tammy says, have to be online all the time. In fact, when I did my OU study, I spent a lot of time by swimming pools and at various ballet lessons, having a little read on my tablet of my devices. And it can be really great to know that you can download and take those. But also, as Tammy says, those additional formats can be really useful for other reasons. I know that some students have said they really like using a PDF reader so that it reads stuff aloud to them. Other people like annotating things. I like using a PDF to find certain words. So for example, if I'm writing an assignment on something, I can search for particular words and then I might find content that relates to it that perhaps allows me to think in a different way. Or if you're in a blind panic, at least you can sort of find some relevant content in your module materials. So they're not just there to be able to work online, but it's worth thinking about those additional resources. Yes, and the ballet lessons weren't for me, by the way. They were for my daughter. However, we're going to all be doing some dancing or movements this Friday night at our social, so no ballet lessons required for that. Right, Tammy, before we go on, let's take a look to see what people have thought of their module website, because a lot of people have already gone on. In fact, some people, like Andrew, who's in his final year and says, don't panic, it's all going to be okay, and plan all of your work, says that it's all going to be fine for everybody. So some very different experiences here. But let's see what people thought of their module website. So here are some words that have been used to describe things like clear, easy to navigate, comprehensive, informative, easy to use. Laid out well. Some people have said they found it hard to navigate. Simple, clean. Love the progress bar, so that's gone down very well. Attractive, rabbit hole. Yes. So there can be some various things. Tammy, would you like to pick up on any particular things here that spring to mind?
I'm just thinking about like the rabbit hole, intimidating, hard to use. There can be a lot of content on the module website. I'm not denying that. 32 weeks of study. There will be a lot there that a module team's put in on there for you to get your heads around. Hopefully the planner's all structured okay, but I know sometimes you're either a little bit ahead and you're a little, or you're a little bit behind, and you want to remember where you were last, and going on to the planner again can sometimes be tricky. So we've added in a few little things to help you try find your way around, and I'm hoping I'll get a screen of these coming up, like top tips and to finding your way around. There are things like your last viewed. If you look at the top of your study planner, there'll be a link there to the last document you viewed. So you'll be able to quickly click on that and find your way around. So that's the screen. Yeah, there we go. So last viewed on the top of the planner, and on the top of each document, you can easily find your way to what you were looking at last. You're also able to bookmark or save for later a piece of content that you were working on, or if you want to refer to it later, you just click on the little bookmark icon on the page, type in a link, give it a name that makes it easy for you. So I need this for TMA01 later on, and all of that content gets collated on your study planner homepage, and there's a little bookmark icon on the bottom there that you can easily go back and find it and refer to it later, because there is so much content on there. I know also if you've got a lot of, say for example, there's a lot going on in the forums, there are easy ways of finding access to that. So like the recently viewed block on your module recent activity. So if we can I pull that screen back up again, please? Yes. So recently viewed activity will click you through to all your forums where there's stuff going on. I'm losing my words now. I get too excited, and yeah.
So, you do,
so
Tammy. But it's fab, and there's lots to do. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so whatever you do, you may find that one or two of those tools are easy, or maybe not for you, but hopefully you can find something that helps you be able to find where you were last, come back to it again, and help you navigate through your material.
And like any new website, it's just about knowing where the things are. Each website has different things, and eventually you get more familiar with it, and then it becomes really second nature, knowing, I guess, that the navigation functions are at the top, and very often it's important to save things, for example. And Harrod, the social, by the way, is on Friday night. It's a Student Hub Live event. It's online here. I might be in a different room, though. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But anyway, we're going to have heaps of fun and do lots of fun things together, including our lovely quiz. And HJ, I think, is also filling you in on the OU app, which I know is getting a lot of attention and love from everyone at home, which is indeed fabulous. So the whole thing, I guess, about rabbit holes, and I'm sure Fiona is going to talk about this later, is that I find anyway, a lot of the trick is not to do stuff that you don't want to do. Like I often get caught up in forums. I'll go and look on a forum, and then 3 hours later, I'll have decided to read every conversation and things. And so, for example, subscribing to particular threads that are of interest, or using search terms to really be specific, and perhaps timing your activities can help you not go down too many rabbit holes. But one of the things I think that we'll all agree on with the OU is that, it's up to us to focus our attention and really be sure of the tasks we want to do, and not procrastinate too much, isn't it, HJ?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really easy to get distracted with everything that can be on the websites, but we've been having a lot of great tips as well. I think as long as people have a look at the main things, so knowing where your study calendar is, everything is okay to leave till after, because you'll pick it up as you go along. Peter said earlier that the best places online with the OU are the virtual learning environment, the library, and of course Student Hub. I think we can all agree with that one. Beverly's been super organised and booked all of her tutorials, which is great to hear. I think the good thing about doing that is once you've booked the tutorials, you can kind of don't have to keep remembering all your dates, because they come up in the study calendar then. So it makes it really easy to keep track of what you're doing, what you've got on. And I know Tammy said there's that really good feature about exporting your study calendar to like Outlook or your Google Mail. And Melissa said as well, that's really good idea maybe to do that if you struggle to keep on track with things. And Jennifer does something the same as me as well, which I find really helpful. There's a little box on your student home called personal links, and she saves all like the important stuff there to quickly navigate it. And there can seem like there's a lot on the OU website, and I do exactly the same, because sometimes I think, oh, I knew I needed that earlier and I couldn't find it before. But if you put it on your personal links, it's really easy to find. So lots of great tips in the chat, and there's lots of helpful videos and tutorials about navigating the OU website as well that we've been putting in the chat. If there's anything else you think of, do let us know, because we can ask our guests or let you know as well, because there's lots of support here today in the chat.
Brilliant. Oh, and Melissa, I love this thing Melissa does. She's obsessed with Google Calendar and color codes in all the different categories. I do that, and Student Hub Live is always yellow because that's my happy color in my calendar. But I love color coding my stuff as well. It makes it really nice.
Great idea.
And Gemma's found you some Southern fried chicken pasta in other news. So there we are. Lots of searching for information. Tammy, was there anything else you wanted to show us? Otherwise, I've got one other question for you.
No more. I've got nothing else to show, so you can go ahead with the question.
Well, there's one thing that I think has confused many students, and these are on the VLE. Sometimes there'll be activities, and students can write in those boxes. And some students aren't quite sure then what happens with that writing that goes in those boxes. So I wonder if you can fill us in on what the point of some of those activities are, and how students can perhaps save it for later, and what they can really do with it.
Okay. So I'm just thinking, so often on the page, the academics will pose a question, like a reflective question, and they'll say, tell me what you think about this, or record your thoughts into this box. And underneath it, you'll have a little box that you can go in and you can type your thoughts into it, and you can save it there. Just to be absolutely clear, nobody else can see what you've put in there. So I can't, no one else can. Whatever you're typing into those boxes while you're doing all of those activities, they're all for your own reflection. They're all for your use. Now, normally what happens is it saves all that content into your web pages, but on that downloads box I showed you earlier on, you can always export and extract all the content that you want from that. So either from that section that you're in, or if you go to the downloads page under resources, you can extract all of those comments if you need them, because sometimes those comments are used to build up your TMAs. So your tutor marked activities, assessments, normally what would happen is as you're working through your content, all of those self-reflective activities sort of build up in order for you to answer your assessment and to be able to write that assignment. And they're really just there to help you learn. You can either use them if you want, or if you don't feel comfortable putting it in the VLE, there's no reason why you can't just use a Word document or save it somewhere else, because no one is checking to see whether you've used them or not. They are just there to help you and to collate all that information in the VLE itself.
Brilliant. And they're really important because, like, if you went to a face-to-face tutorial, someone might say, why don't you discuss this with a partner? And it's kind of like the equivalent, but you're talking to yourself about those things. And sometimes, I mean, I used to, when I was an OU student, sometimes think, oh, you know, that activity, I'm not sure that's really going to benefit me. But when you do have a go at it and then often read the discussion that follows after you've put some thoughts down, it can really develop your understanding. So they can be a really important part of that learning process. But it's just important to know that nobody's going to tell you off if you're not filling them in, and certainly nobody's going to mark you on them in particular. Oh, good. Olivia and Jodie and Jennifer, Tala, Zoe and Melissa are all very excited about Friday night. I think we've got a few more coming, but that's absolutely fantastic. And if you haven't booked on that, get your tickets on the Student Hub Live website. And we've got lots of other sessions this week, which will be very helpful to you all. So that's great. Thank you very much, Tammy. That's all for now in terms of the VLE, but I'm sure we're going to have some more questions for you a little bit later. But in the meantime, I wanted to talk about some other spaces, because the VLE, the virtual learning environment, which houses your module, is possibly the space you might go to the most. Okay, it's where you'll often log into your studies, read what you have to do each week, tick things off as Leanne does, and watch videos, etc., all from that one space. It's also where you get your assignments from and where you access forums and the other resources as well, as we've spoken about. But that's only really half the picture, because at the OU, as we've spoken about this morning, you're more than just your module, and there are other spaces that are equally important and other people that are really important to know about. So we're going to cover some of these main areas, and I want to start with what I think is one of the most important people. So I'm going to talk to Leanne about this, and this is the associate lecturer or your tutor. For people who are brand new, of which we have many today, and those of you who have studied with the OU, perhaps you might fill people in on your experiences with your tutor and how you've made the most of their relationship. But Leanne, tell us a little bit about how you found working with your tutor, and you know, how it's been different in each module that you've done.
Excuse me. My first module, I was absolutely terrified of contacting my tutor. I'll be honest. At the beginning, I thought, oh, I don't want to bother them. Oh, they're not going to want to hear from me. And it was after the first TMA, and I got the feedback, and I thought, no, I'm going to send an email. So I sent an email to my tutor, and I felt that once I'd got that first contact out of the way, and she was ever so kind with her response, I sort of felt more and more confident in reaching out to her throughout the module, and it made me feel that I wasn't alone, whereas before I'd sort of felt very isolated. But I suddenly felt that I wasn't doing this on my own, and I did have somebody in there to support me. And it was very much the same with my second tutor on my second module, but I was much more confident to sort of go in straight away and sort of send an introduction and say, hi, this is me. And yeah, and again, it was sort of a relationship that was built up. I think there's often a worry students are going to feel that they are overburdening their tutor or they're contacting them too much. tutors want you to do well. And I think a lot of students forget that sometimes. It's what tutors are there for. They want to support you, they want you to do well, and they're there for a reason. So don't be scared to make use of them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think sometimes the fact that somebody's going to be marking your work and providing feedback can be a little bit daunting at times, but that person is really there to sort of help develop and grow you and work with those experiences. And I don't know whether you found this. I noticed when we were talking, and Tammy saw that lovely graphic which had all of the word clouds for the VLE, and she immediately jumped on all of the negative ones I noticed, which is very common. But I don't know whether you found this, Leanne, that you sort of often pick up on negative feedback and maybe don't notice some of the positive feedback and ways the tutor's supporting. Did you find that?
I did find that, yes. In my first module, I felt that negative feedback was, I almost took it personally, like it was a personal attack on me, and that's not the way it's meant at all. And after discussing things with my tutor, I started to realize that actually that negative feedback is sometimes more valuable than the positive feedback, because it's telling you the things that you can work on, and the things that you can make better to improve your mark. And it's just kind of, again, it comes with tutor fear. I think you just have to realize that they're not being nasty. They're trying their best to support you and to help you to achieve your best. And if I can just drop something in quickly as well, as a part of Freshers Fortnight this week, the Students Association are actually running a session with an associate lecturer, and it's called Tutors Don't Bite. And there will be some tutors there to answer any burning questions, any concerns that students have. So if you are concerned about a relationship with your tutor, or what it's going to mean, what it's going to be like, then please do come along and ask your questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that one of the important things as well is to take on board some feedback that may be about improving particular things, but also when your tutor says that you're doing something really well, to take that on board, because it's much easier to keep doing the stuff you're doing well than it is to correcting things. And sometimes we forget some of the stuff we do well, and we don't sort of take that in our stride and feel confident and perform as well as we can at those particular bits. I think that that's also really important as well. HJ, let's just take a quick trip over to you. I hear you're chatting lots to people. Hope you've got lots of decent suggestions about what you might eat afterwards.
Oh, I know. I was jealous. People had really good things. They had like walnuts, yogurt, and honey, cheese, and crackers, sausage rolls. So lots of amazing things, which puts my toast to shame. So I've got lots of suggestions for my lunch next time. What I have been excited though is Peter said earlier that for the module EA 300 children's literature, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is a set book. So I think I've got my next module idea there. Any chance to read it again, isn't it? But I know there's lots of tips as well and things we've been discussing in the chat. So Olivia has said, I've been using spider diagrams to summarize everything I've learned each week. So it's like a quick overview and a great way to review things as well, because it's all there just on one page, the main topics, which is a great suggestion. And Eliza was saying I was given the same tutorial by someone with a chemistry background and someone in a maths background, and found that there were some differences, and it was quite interesting in what Eliza picked up from that as well. And I found that as well. That's a great thing about the tutorials, is that you can book with different tutors. So sometimes if I'm not quite getting a topic, I might attend a second tutorial with a different tutor and see if it's explained slightly differently in a way that I understand it. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, and sometimes you get a lot out of trying out different tutors, see if they sort of match your learning style when it comes to these tutorials as well. And Julie asked, do you need to do all the tutorials? And the answer most of the time is no. It's just whatever suits you and for your learning journey, what's best. I absolutely love the tutorials and got a lot out of them. I know some other people prefer just to read their set books and do things in their own time and individually. There's nothing wrong with that as well. And although you may not attend a tutorial, your tutor's always there for you at the end of a phone or an email if you do want to connect with them outside tutorial. So there's lots of great things we're talking about today. And as always, anything we miss, do email us, studenthub@open.ac.uk, and we'd love to get back to you, and we'd love to hear more of your suggestions about what you're doing and what's been helping while you're setting up.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Melissa's had a pasty, Sylvia's had vegetables with tofu and vegan mayonnaise and potatoes. But I must stick up for HJ because he has just been on holiday eating, incidentally, the most fabulous food. So it's okay for him just to have some toast in the house today. But we will be tasting up on this next week. Yeah, you are. But, that's time. You've got lots of suggestions. There'll be no excuse on Wednesday, HJ. Let's put it that way. Well, with that in mind, I think let's take a trip to Fiona and see what we can find out about these Adobe Connect or sort of tutorial spaces. The library run particular workshops in some of these spaces, but one of the areas that she was going to fill us in were these online rooms or Adobe Connect areas. Fiona, what can you tell us about these spaces?
Right, well, the Open University online tutorial system is normally called online rooms. So that's probably what you'll see in your modules and in the guidance for using the tutorials. They're actually run in software which is called Adobe Connect. So you'll also hear people talk about Adobe Connect as well. And it's basically just a virtual classroom. And the library run tutorials in Adobe Connect or online rooms, whatever you want to call it, on a regular basis. So in fact, anybody's allowed to come to the library tutorials, whether they're tutors or students. You don't need to book, you just turn up and you can come to whatever tutorial we happen to be running at the time. So we do things like introduction to library services, the how and why of referencing, using library search for your assignment, the sort of stuff that's bread and butter for students, really. And we're even running one tonight, actually, which is improving your experience accessing online resources. And this is just giving students who might perhaps have a disability some idea of things that they can do to improve their access. So, for example, how to get a PDF to read out loud to you, and the disabled students support pages that we have on the library website, and the system called Census Access, which they can use for making different formats of their module material or whatever. So do feel free to turn up to the library tutorials, and that way you can have a sneak preview of what online rooms actually looks like. Without in a sort of low stakes environment, because we don't put people on the spot in library tutorials, so you can just turn up and see what it's like in the tutorial system, and also you can learn how to use library search for your assignment, the why and how of referencing and stuff like that.
Brilliant. And I must say, your referencing sessions are really, really, really brilliant. I sent everyone there because so many of my new students are worried about referencing. So I say, don't worry, go to the library, and they run them throughout the year. They're absolutely fantastic. And as you say, they're a nice opportunity to experience what the online rooms are like. We also do them at Student Hub Live, workshops and online rooms. They're heaps of fun. And I know that some of you are asking about catch up. Well, some of these are recorded. Fiona, are some of yours recorded as well?
Oh yes, all the library generic sessions are recorded, and they're actually on YouTube, so they're available, to anybody actually, and they all have transcripts and captions too.
That's excellent. And the transcripts can be good if you're a little bit time poor and want to skim through things quickly. But I personally think there's nothing like going in real time and also meeting other students there. So the choice is yours. Also, Student Hub Live is available on Catch Up as well. We've got a YouTube channel with heaps of content from over the years. And also you can look at our Student Hub Live website and catch up on some of our Adobe Connect workshops and much, much more there as well. Okay, so that's great. So we've talked a little bit about Adobe Connect and the importance of those things. The one thing I would add, especially from a tutor perspective, because I teach as well, is that it can be really nice when students participate wholly in some of these tutorials. Nobody knows everything, but sometimes you'll be asked to contribute to discussions, and it really can help your learning, like those activities that we were talking about earlier on, the virtual learning environment that you can fill in. They do help your own understanding, even if you can't present your ideas as articulately as you might like in the first place. So let's talk to Mark a little bit now about information security. So this is another key area. We've got a fantastic computing help desk that can help you if things do go wrong. So as an OU student, first point of call often is the student support team, and computing help desk if it's computer related, and of course your tutor as well if it's academic related. But Mark, what can you tell us a little bit about some of the benefits students get by being part of the OU, and some of the things that they might want to bear in mind with those benefits in terms of information security?
Yeah, so thanks for that. So obviously it feels like quite a comprehensive topic, cybersecurity, information security as a whole. But what I'd add to students of the OU specifically is we've got a fantastic suite of tools to use that are incredibly secure. They support your collaboration. It makes studying in a way a lot more efficient, as well as more secure. So sometimes people think of information security and cybersecurity as something to fear, or it's a hassle and things like that. But with us, we have a fantastic suite of apps within Office 365, which you have access to as students. So that's not just things like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and Excel, which most people use, but there's some fantastic secure spaces to use where you can collaborate with your tutor at times, and equally with fellow students in a secure environment where you don't want certain individuals to see that, or certain individuals shouldn't need to see that. And that would be Microsoft Teams. That's a really good collaborative space. You can manage things like your projects or your time with the help of things like Notebook, which is a good way of keeping record of things that you might want to pop down on an actual physical notepad and you don't need to, and to ensure that the wrong people aren't going to see that. You might be in a coffee shop, or you might be out and about studying at a friend's house, and you don't want to leave something that could potentially compromise your studies. But if you keep that in that secure space, that goes absolutely wonders for supporting with your security. There's a lot more we can talk about in regard to sort of general information security practice later on. But in terms of general tools, as the others have alluded to, in terms of Adobe Connect, that is one of our core tools. And if you can, when you're working, stick to the approved tools that we have. So at the OU, so the Office 365 suite is there for you to use from Microsoft, and that is the most secure way to work and study when you're at the OU, and to use that in conjunction with Adobe Connect.
Brilliant. So very important to use the approved tools. And one thing I really like is this OneDrive thing. So many, well, I've heard over the years, in fact, I've done it as well, lost work that's been like on my desktop or something. It's so important when you're doing an assignment to have it saved somewhere safe, and ideally somewhere that you can access if, for example, you happen to spill a mug of tea over your computer, and also something labeled safely. Would you agree?
Totally, absolutely. I mean, it's fundamentally something that is not only secure, but it's easy to access. So again, that's a part of that Office 365 suite that I alluded to. So if you save something to your personal OneDrive, that's not going to go away. We've never had any issues with, in terms of from our perspective, staff or students, of things just disappearing. It just doesn't happen. I mean, we can easily have issues where if you've not saved something, or the age-old tale of backing up, that's not needed here. It's just a case of if you save it to OneDrive, it's going to be there. You can easily search it and access it, and it's in its own little online repository within that Office 365 suite.
Brilliant. So no excuses then to your tutor about assignments being late if you're using OneDrive. So that's very, very good news. Excellent. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later, because I want to talk to you and Fiona about being safe online. But before we do that, there's just a couple of other spaces I wanted to talk a little bit about. Our colleagues from the student support team are here in the chat today, but we unfortunately had an outage with Jamie, so he wasn't able to be on screen. But if he was, and you can meet him on other catch-ups, so he's really, really lovely, as are all of our other student support team colleagues. They're the people who you go to if, for example, you're really stuck on anything. I mean, they do things from talking about time management to helping with deferrals or choices over your qualifications or which modules to do. If, for example, you think, I might want to ramp up my study and pick up another course in February, they're the people to talk to about all of that. And not only do they have the information, but they also have the skills to help you make sense of things that are right for you. So very often they'll work on thinking about how much time you've got, what your goals are at the end. They also work with our fantastic team in the Careers and Employability Service. So as an OU student, and it's never too early to start, you can access heaps of information. but also you can not only look at workbooks about your career, information about requirements for particular careers, but you can book consultations with one of the team if you'd like to talk about your career, and they can give you lots and lots of personal advice. And the careers team also do lots of webinars. They help with things like a CV builder, and they've got this fab new program online which videos you if you're preparing for interviews, and that's really, really helpful because you can sort of get feedback on that just so that you can watch it, and it's something that I know many people have used to sort of really help them develop. So don't forget, the student support team are your go-to people if you don't know anything and you're just not sure what to do. They're available a lot of the time, so they've got some really nice extended hours, including on weekends and later on in the evenings, and they can help you with lots of those things. And the careers team as well, if you look on the careers tab on your Student Home website, you'll again find access to all of the support that they've got for you there. There's another important space, and we talked a little bit about this morning, which is Open Learn. It's a space where those of your friends and people who go, oh, that looks very interesting, you can say to them, well, why don't you have a little taster? And you can pick up lots of free content on Open Learn. Fiona, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, certainly. One of the things about Open Learn is when the module teams are writing your modules, then they actually are required to make 20 hours of the module available to upload so that people can access it freely on Open Learn. And that means that if you type your module code into Open Learn, then you can find the 20 hours of module material that there's been put up there. So one of the things that we often get on the library help desk is the students will say, oh, I want to get ahead for this particular module. This is the sort of question that's usually asked in August and the beginning of September. What can I do to get a head start on my module? I mean, it's true we do have introductory books, but I always say to them, have you heard of Open Learn? And if you go and look in Open Learn, then you can find little bits of module material there, perhaps the one that you're going to study. And it's also a good place to look for future modules that you might want to study as well. It has over 1,000 courses on it at the moment, so it's a pretty spectacular platform actually, and it's been wildly popular during the pandemic, and just in the last year it's had 14 million people accessing it.
Wow, that is heaps. Rose says Open Learn is so much fun, and Kim says it's absolutely brilliant. So some people there already sharing things. You might want to share in the chat what sort of things you've looked at on Open Learn. I know some people look at things that are entirely different from what they're doing, and some students, for example, at level 1 who might be doing quite an interdisciplinary module may find that they can sort of feed their nourishment for something quite specific by going and having a look at Open Learn to supplement some of their learning at that stage. So that's great. Now, Eve says the Being an OU Student course was brilliant. This is our BOC, our Badged Open course. Fiona, briefly, can you tell us a little bit about what's in that?
Yes, it's basically a number of hours. It's not too long, and it's a free course for students who enrol to start their first undergraduate module. And it just gives you an idea of how the VLE works, the kind of how the tutor system works, how tutorials work. So it's really good to give students an idea of how to be an Open University student.
Absolutely. So Eve might fill us in a little bit more in the chat on that. Leanne, I wonder if we could end by just telling a few sort of areas as well. I just wanted to ask you about the USA website, which is the Open University Students Association website. And you mentioned there's lots going on this week for students to get involved with, but you also do other things. What can students find out about on the association website?
Well, if you go to the association website, which is oustudents.com, there's a wealth of information. You can find out about the student leadership team who are elected to represent you every 2 years. You can find all the support that we offer. So we offer things like peer support, Together All. We have our own charity, the OU Students Educational Trust. Tons of support that we offer. You can find information about the student card, the totem card, which is the new sort of NUS card. And if you get one of those, you're entitled to thousands of discounts. And you can also find information about our student community. So we have a vibrant student community. We have clubs and societies that cover a huge range of interests. We have regular events. We have things like drop-ins, chats. We have meetups. We have quizzes and bingo. And we also have several volunteer roles as well. We have lots of opportunities for students to actually get involved in the association and volunteer. And again, another freshers drop, but there's a session tonight as well about volunteering and representation for anybody who might be interested in getting involved in volunteering as well.
Brilliant. Actually, to be honest, everyone wants to know if there are hoodies available.
There are, yes, and I do have quite a collection myself. If you go to www.oustudentshop.com, you will find our hoodies, our t-shirts, and lots of other branded merchandise as well. But I will warn, it can be addictive.
Yes, exactly. We must be careful of those rabbit holes. Well, Jessica says that she did the OU student course and it helped her understand the website a lot better and how to manage her time. So if you are confused by the virtual learning environment, and indeed, these are new things, we're filling you in on some things, but let's face it, this is quite a holistic discussion at the moment. You might want to go and do that Being an OU student course in a bit more detail. I would highly recommend that if you are a new student. It'll take you through all of those things so that you're happy to navigate things. Grant wants a hoodie now. It's so suggestible. Well, if only HJ were like that with his vegetables. Now, let's move on to talking a little bit as we end the show about being safe online. So this is something we've talked about before. When we asked you earlier whether or not you'd considered your digital presence, 57% of you said that you have considered this, but 14% no, and 29% said a little. It's funny, isn't it, that we can sort of hook up in these online spaces and think, oh, this is very nice and friendly. Let me give you my phone number, etc., which we mustn't do here. But it is really, really important to be safe online. So, Mark, can I invite you to tell us a little bit about why it's so important? And you'd mentioned some of those things before about security and making sure your networks are safe. But tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, you just alluded to things like your digital footprint, and that is something that could be left probably in more places than you'd imagine, I think more often than not. Even from if you log into a Wi-Fi network, which is in a supermarket or a restaurant, even something as simple as that. The big things to check, if I was going to give you almost a sort of really brief checklist, is if you're going to a Wi-Fi network and it connects automatically, I'd try and disconnect. And ideally, you want to try and access Wi-Fi networks that you have to input a password for, because that's obviously adding an extra layer of security. So if you're finding Wi-Fi networks that you can connect to automatically, so it could be on like some public transport, it could be on a train, for instance, and if you can connect automatically, then that isn't a secure network, and we would advise against connecting to something like that. Another thing is tethering. So I would say try not to create like hotspots if you can avoid it when you're trying to connect remotely, which I know isn't always as easy as it was done, because sometimes when you are trying to find a place to work and sort of study remotely, it can be quite difficult. But if you can avoid that, that'd be really helpful to avoid potential scammers and hackers and the bad guys getting in, really, essentially. If you can ensure as well to ensure like two-step verification for anything you try and get into with your devices particularly. So I know a lot of students, when you first come in, you might try and study on multiple devices. So it might just be your laptop when you're on the go, it might be your mobile, and you can easily encrypt your device, whether it be with sort of bioencryption, so like with your fingerprint, or with a long code, which isn't going to be easily guessed. So I'd urge you to do that if you can. In terms of the basics of when you're on the go and you'll sort of get an email, or it could be a link, something you might think is study material, I say don't click on it until you can absolutely verify where it comes from. Because something, I see this every day where you often might get an email or a link to something and then you see it and you think that's genuine, and you might click on it and then find that it takes you somewhere which could potentially be malicious, and then that immediately could mean your data's left somewhere. And from a much broader perspective, it's just not sharing, like Fiona alluded to earlier, it's not sharing your personal information where you don't need to. It's only sharing it with those that you should be sharing it with, and beyond that, making sure your login credentials that you use to log in, to things like the VLE and whatnot, and to the entry on the websites as a whole, is to keep it strong, unique, and secret. And if you can, to use things like passphrases. And this is a lot of information to take in one go. So I'd urge, if you need any sort of kind of bit of feedback or digestibility for this content, is to go to those safe and secure computing pages where we've updated it as little as last week with the latest threats and what you can do to try and protect yourself. So go there, because it's a lot to take in today. I'll admit that. There's so much I could talk to you about. But in terms of the day-to-day, they're going to be sort of your main threats. But if you do think you've been, in a worst case scenario, if you've been compromised, or you feel even a vague sense that something's not quite right, I'd say don't click on it. The best thing you can do is contact the computer and health desk. Don't touch anything. And then if worst case scenario is something like that, they can contact and we'll engage with you. So I'm the coordinator of the information security team. So I'll be one of those people you might come into contact with. We're a very friendly bunch. I said, we'd rather know about something than not at all. So if you worry about any sort of ramifications or there being any fallout from you reporting something that you think might compromise you or your tutor or anything like that, don't worry. So that's the message we want to convey, that we're here, we want to listen, and you can report things easily to the computer and health desk, and that's the best thing you can do.
Brilliant. Because I think some of these scams are getting so clever now, and they work because they are that way. So if someone inadvertently clicked on a link, I think it's really reassuring to know that they can call up and you guys can help support them, and also that students have all this free software to use that is secure and safe, so they really don't need to worry about that if they're using those systems. That's fantastic. Now, Wendy Chalmers from the library has put a link into the chat about managing your digital footprint. And this is something, Fiona, that the library really help with in terms of managing your digital presence, something I think that we're not always mindful of. Why is this such an important thing, especially right now?
I think one of the key things is that a lot of people are using social media these days. So, you can be on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And you probably don't, because you're dealing with friends and family, you probably don't think about the security side of things. So managing your digital footprint, one of the things we look at in that is how to set security settings in some of the social media sites, and also to look out for ways of doing that, because things do change quite a bit in the social media space. And it's just a question of keeping yourself safe online and being aware of the fact that there are ways of setting privacy settings and not just leaving it to chance.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at our word cloud, where we asked people about staying safe online. And then I'd like to end by asking Mark and Fiona just to sort of have some comments on there. There's lots and lots of useful things. People have been clearly listening to everything you've said, Mark, absorbing all that information there. So here they've said things about changing passwords. Gemma, I love this. I really relate to it. My passwords are so good that even I don't know them. I do that too sometimes. But people have picked up on some key things here. Mark, what would you like to pick up on from our lovely word cloud?
Yes, I'm looking at things like using a VPN. That's always really helpful if you can. So if you have got whether it's a paid for service or you've got your own sort of VPN connection that you've procured for whatever reason, then that is something that can secure. That is your own private channel effectively. If you're online, so your digital footprint is effectively bulletproof in that sense. When you are working with a VPN, so that's something I'd urge anyone to do if you have the ability to do so. I mean, not everyone has, of course. It's not always easy to access for everybody, but if you can do that, something that's really important. Other things that we can talk about, passwords is a massive thing that's talked about a lot. Whether to use things like a password manager or whether just to focus on something that is very hard to predict and then stick with it. And strangely, I would go more on the side of something that is long but very hard to predict, because a lot of people can sometimes get into the habit of changing their password a lot, and they change it to something which is quite similar to the password they had before, and that in itself can be quite dangerous. And it's easier for the bad guys to get in there and actually find what that password is sooner than, say, if you pick something that was a lot longer in the first instance. It's very hard to predict.
Brilliant. Okay, yes, I think we could all do with a bit of work on our passwords. Fiona, can I invite you to have the last word from our contributions on the word cloud?
Yes, I think one of the things that we're very keen on in the library is about trust online, and about looking at what you're actually clicking on, or the kinds of things that you want to use, and then just evaluating it and thinking about how safe it is and how reliable it is. So we actually have something called Being Digital, which is a series of very short activities on being aware of what you do in the digital space, and we have a whole section on trust online.
Brilliant. Well, that is absolutely fantastic. We've run out of time again. It always happens. It's inevitable. But we've covered a lot today, and I think it's really clear that you guys have some brilliant ideas at home and have certainly taken a lot of information on board as well. HJ, is everyone happy? Have we settled everyone's nerves and answered all their questions?
Oh, I'm really pleased to hear that. A lot of people are saying that they've enjoyed the events and it has helped. And I think just knowing that everyone else is in the same boat when we're starting out, and there's loads of support out there. So do make sure to get in touch with your student support team or your tutor if you need anything. And as well, if we've missed anything in the chat or you just want to get in touch or have a suggestion for us, just email us studenthub@open.ac.uk. But you can also get in touch through Twitter @StudentHubLive. And of course, there's plenty of events going on this week if you want to join in again. And we'd love to see you again soon.
Brilliant, excellent. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11 to find out what HJ is going to be having for lunch, and also to start thinking about developing some of our academic skills and feeling a bit more confident in our learning. So bring all your questions, certainly bring your lunch and a nice cup of tea then. I hope you can join us at the next session. Check out the Student Hub Live website for all the other events that we've got lined up for you. And don't forget to subscribe to our monthly mailing list, because we only release the dates of our events about a month or so in advance. So that's your surefire way to get hold of things that may be of interest to you. Right, it's been a wonderful session. I'd like to thank all of my guests, Mark and Leanne and Tammy and Fiona, and of course HJ, and our lovely colleagues in the chat, Nicole, Heather, Natasha and Matt. You've all been superb. Thank you all for watching at home. I hope you have a lovely afternoon, and we'll see you at another event very soon. Bye for now.